Is it lively and excited, or is it laid back and calm? We need to have some consistency in every vocal interaction, which we can do if we define a brand voice. Music, very important, and probably many of you use it. Music is an extremely significant sound for brands as well. If any of you have flown on this airline, you'll recognise this piece of music. It's the Flower Duet from called Lacme by Dave. And British Airways have used this all over the place, in the plane, on the website, on the phone. They've used it for years and years and years. But a few years ago, they sacked their advertising agency, and they brought in a new agency and thought, let's get rid of that old classical stuff, and they did this.
We believe your holiday should start before you arrive.
Now that's a song called Leaving on a Jet Plane.
You should expect
Sounds like a good idea, but then you realise the second line of that song goes, don't know when I'll be back again, which may not be the best message for business travellers or indeed their families. The song was written by a guy called John Denver, who died in a plane crash. Not the best choice in the world. And actually, when they did that, they had thousands of complaints, irrespective of the two things I've just mentioned. People were saying, where's our lovely classical music? Because the customers knew something BA did not know. They knew that it had a sonic asset. I wonder if any of you have got sonic assets that you haven't been aware of. They were just going to chuck it away. Fortunately, they've now brought it back, and they still haven't sound marked it. They could sound mark that. Music is very powerful for two reasons. First of all, we recognize it very quickly, and secondly, we associate it very strongly with things. So, I would imagine many of you will recognize this. I think there's old enough people in the audience. I did this a few months ago to an audience of 300 students. It was a wall of blank faces. That's the first chord of Hard Day's Night by the Beatles. I imagine almost all of you will associate this with something. That's 1 second of music. It doesn't take long, does it? It's very powerful, and that means it needs to be used with great care. What music is not is a veneer. I haven't been in many recording studios over the years where people are hunched over a mixing desk at 3 in the morning going, let's make something nobody wants to listen to. The intention of music is to be listened to in the main. Therefore, if we put it on in the background and we're trying to do something else, there's a conflict of interest. The music's saying, listen to me, and I'm saying, I'm trying to think about these 25 mobile phone tariffs and 72 handsets with this 18-year-old who doesn't know anything about it. I don't need pop music at that moment. It's a common mistake. Fortunately, there is another sound which we can start to investigate between silence and music. I'll mention that in a moment. One more aspect of brand sound that I think you all ought to be thinking about is branded audio. Very powerful for retail. This is effectively putting your brand on top of high-value audio and giving it to people. It used to look like this, and of course you know these businesses made far more money out of CDs than they ever did out of being a bar or a hotel. Now it looks like this, and it can sound like this.
This is Alberto Salazar, Nike Running Coach. This 30-minute workout includes hill repeats to improve your running fitness.
So there's Nike giving you a workout. You're a world champion. You get on your Nike, you do the workout to him. Thank you very much, Nike. You're using your Nike kit. You feel good about the brand. It's added value. It costs very little to do that kind of thing. For retail, that can be very, very powerful because many of you have experts working in retail who really know about a particular category and could podcast. We're doing this with Harrods at the moment. Department head of couture, podcasting. Next week we have Georgy John coming in. Ladies, you must come and see their new collection. Reason to come to the store. In voice, it's very powerful because, like radio, people consider voice to be an intimate one-to-one communication. Personal, powerful, very cheap to do. Podcasting. But the really important one for today's conversation is soundscapes in retail. And I have to say, in our experience, most retail soundscapes have three things in common. First, they're accidental, just the exhaust gas and what's going on in the space. Nobody designed it, it just happens. Secondly, they're incongruent, as I said, with every other part of the visual branding, the other parts of the branding. And thirdly, many of them are downright hostile, and they leave us feeling like this. I'll give you a couple of examples. I will name names. This is Waitrose in the UK supermarket, where shelf stackers are dropping trays just behind the top. It makes you do this, jump. I don't have to introduce this poor fellow to any of you. We found these all over the place. They just go on screaming until they die in a corner somewhere, making everybody miserable, nobody does anything about it, squeaky trolleys. Chiller cabinets, this is Marks and Spencer's food, 85 decibels coming out of these. Two of these opposite each other, you feel like you're being beaten up here. It's like being in a factory, not a food shop. And then the most common one, just badly delivered music, poorly chosen for a terrible sound system. Who thinks this is a pleasant retail environment? For goodness sake, this is horrible. And finally, we have the obsession of architects with all hard surfaces, which creates reverberant spaces, often with traffic noise coming in, with sound systems, with PA announcements being made. It's just a mess, and it makes us leave. Often brands think they've got it right. This is a decent example. A brand that has a pretty good idea of its sound space, or its music space certainly, but if you put music on top of this, what you effectively have is icing on mud. It may look like a cake, but it does not taste like one. If you put music on top of noise, it is just more noise. It's like putting perfume on a stink. You just get a worse smell. Please don't do that. Here's an interesting example which shows the power of music in a retail environment. Two identical gondola ends in a supermarket, French wine on one, German wine on the other, no difference in the visual displays at all, and all they did was alternate French and German music. So day one, you have a little bit of this. Day two. So what happened? On the French music days, French wine outsold German wine by 5 bottles to 1, which may not be a surprise, it does tend to sell more. But on the German music days, German wine outsold French wine by 2 bottles to 1. Now that is interesting. And if you'd said to the people leaving that store, did you buy that bottle of German wine because of the music playing, you know what they would have said? What music? This is non-conscious, changes behaviour massively. If that's the kind of effect that sound can have, just ask yourselves, the undesigned sound in my spaces, I wonder what that is doing to people. It's about designing not just appearance, but designing experience in all 5 senses. So my question to you is, if you shut your eyes and go into your space, can you identify it? Is it unique? Is it differentiated? Is it gorgeous? Is it going to make people stay? Is it going to make them want to come back? When we're auditing spaces, we consider 4 things. First, the acoustics, very important. Can do things about that, even in a big space. Second, the noise sources. We're the people who go around listening to squeaky escalators, banging doors, little tiny noises that just, over time, build up and create a high, what we call noise floor. Then, the sound system. Is it decent? You know, if it was designed for PAVA announcements and bought cheaply, don't put music through it. It probably won't work. And finally, when we've considered all of those things, then what content, if any, should be put into the space? And it's absolutely fine to start from silence. You know, there's a great description of conversation from Elizabethan England. They describe conversation as decorated silence. That's a lovely way to think of sound in retail. It's decorate the silence. And then it's kind of like painting a picture. You have foreground sound probably, and some background sound. It's a question of what those sounds are. We have a system that we use called the amplifier, which creates generative soundscapes. That is to say, they're not recorded. You start playing the system and it plays live, based on probabilities and algorithms. It's like a river flowing past. These things are designed generally to be all wallpaper. Just background sound, not to be listened to, but to create an ambience. And they have an effect. Here's an example from Glasgow Airport. An airport, of course, is a shopping mall, as you've just heard, with planes parked around the outside of it. And the effect we had, the desired effect here, was to reduce stress. That was our brief. So we put this soundscape in. And you can hear the bird song, makes people feel secure. Very slow paced, very gentle. And it was at ambient level, not as loud as this. I'm playing it louder for you right now. The effect, retail sales in the duty-free shop went up by 10%, and in other shops by between 3 and 10. We weren't playing in the shops, we were only playing in the common parts of the airport. Another example, BP service station toilets. disgusting places were killing the brand. So they refurbed them, made them into what they call 5-star bathrooms. We put birdsong in. People now come out smiling, and customer satisfaction has gone up 50% because of the toilets. The smallest things can make the biggest difference. Another good example, not far from here, we worked for Bank Muscat in Oman, created that sonic logo that you just heard, and this soundscape, which has got water in it. Of course, in a desert country, water is the sound of life, wealth, purity, a lot of symbolism of water, and that sound is very powerful there. We're very culturally sensitive, of course, when that sonic logo is played on an oud, and played by a famous local musician. Harrods is a major customer for us. I'm just going to finish by showing you one example from Harrods. If you go in the fine glass department, this is the sound you'll hear, much quieter than this. Right here, maybe. Very gentle, very soothing. Every sound in this soundscape is made by glass. So you're listening to what you're looking at. That makes sense to me. Much more sense than pop music in a space like this. This is a place where everything you're looking at in that photograph is extremely expensive. Harrods would very much like you to linger here and feel comfortable and relaxed doing that. So, to finish, 4 golden rules for commercial sound. Now that you're thinking about it, I hope I've been able to get across the point that we need to think about it. Let's make all the sound that we have in our commercial spaces congruent with our visual, olfactory, gustatory, all the senses congruent, but particularly sound and sight. Secondly, let's make it appropriate. That is to say, not surprising people or shouting at them where it's not necessary. I have a big bugbear, for example, with in-store radio. I tend to fill my car up at a BP garage near me. We're not in control of what goes on in the main BP space. Now it costs me, I think, £85 to fill up my car in the UK. You should be very happy that you're living here, those of you who do. £85 later, I'm feeling sore. I walk in, and there's an in-store radio station saying, "Hi, I'm Gary, why not buy a muffin?" Predictably, I'm not impressed with that. I'm already hurting. That's jumping on me and selling to me at a time when I'm not particularly open to be sold to. So we have to make the sound that we're delivering appropriate to the moment. Thirdly, let's make it valuable. If it doesn't give value to the customer, why are we making it at all? And finally, sometimes the influences of sound are complex. They can countervail. It's like a bowl of spaghetti with influences going everywhere. Sometimes you just have to eat the spaghetti and see what happens. So test, test, and test again. And when you're testing, don't ask people what they think about the sound. Just ask them, how do you feel? How soon are you coming back? How's your visit been today? Are you going to tell your friends? And test that in different sound conditions without talking about sound, because most of the impact has been non-conscious. And the moment you ask people consciously about it, you crystallize something which was happening at a different level altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, good sound is indeed good business. I hope I've been able to convince you of that a little bit today. Unfortunately, I have to leave at 1 o'clock to catch a plane back to London, but I will leave some business cards with David, and if anybody wants to talk further after this, I'm absolutely delighted to do that. Just thank you very much for lending me your ears today. Thank you.
Julian, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to have you on the stage, and I really appreciate your attendance today. And what I would like to do is make sure anybody who has an interest in following up with Julian, please get the business cards from one of our staff or myself. We'd be happy to help you out with that. But thanks again. Our next session on the day today is our retail runway. The retail runway is always a crowd favorite in our conferences for the ICSC and the MECSC around the world. The retail runway allows for industry professionals to deliver a 10-minute presentation about their specific expansion plans, who and what their brand is about, the site requirements, desired demographics, as well as the platform for the rollout. And it's really important for us to have these people, and thank you very much, all of you, for coming. I would like all of you to come up to the front now, please. Maybe Mohammad, to bring your team up. And I'll introduce you as you're coming up, and we'll start Mohammad Alawi, is the moderator of the panel today. Mohammad is no stranger to the MECSC for any of us. He's the CEO of the Red Sea Mall in Jeddah. It's the largest shopping center in Jeddah, with a GLA of about 105,000 square meters. Mohammad was the Vice President of Asset Management of MAF Property and country head of MAF in the past. And he's also Vice President of Leasing and Retail Property Management for the United Properties Group, Savola Group. And he's been a past president and member of the Middle East Council of Shopping Centers forever. So we thank certainly for Mohammad and his participation today. Cem Eric is coming to us from Istanbul in Turkey. Cem completed his undergraduate degree in economics at Istanbul University and his graduate degree in international banking and finance as well. He began his professional career in corporate finance and development of Hammock Bank in 1990 and moved to the textile industry in 1993, where he served in executive roles for the last 10 years. Currently, Cem is general manager of the Canyon Mall in Istanbul, which is a very famous and newer mall. So we appreciate you coming along, Cem, to tell us a little bit about the Turkish retailers today. Radek Prodacky comes to us from Alshaya. Radek has been strategic and the go-to guy in Alshaya's food division brands and the rollout of their different brands throughout the region. He's also involved in Turkey, UK, and Russia with these brands. Previous in his career, he's had the development and construction of different companies, largely in the CEE. And he's been a store development manager at Starbucks, rollout of the lead brand and expansion of CEE, project manager for a number of different places in the airports in Prague. And we welcome you. Thank you for coming. Not in order, but I'll start now with Georgy John. Georgy comes to us from Kuwait. He has extensive managerial background and more than 20 years in the hospitality field. A graduate from the prestigious Institute of Hotel Management in Mumbai. He started his career as a management trainee with the Carlson Hospitality Group. He's the first employee for Gastronomica, having joined the company before its inception even. He joined as operations manager in 2003 and grew over the years to become the director of operations. I knew that I wanted to have Georgie on the panel when I went and dined at one of his restaurants, which was fabulous in Kuwait, and I was pleased that he was able to join us, so thank you very much. Keith Flanagan has been in the region for a long time. Thanks for joining us today, Keith. Keith is the general manager of Algarera Retail, part of the Algarera Investments. It's a diversified industrial group with operations spanning more than 20 countries. Since joining Algarera in 2000, he's built a highly profitable business that has created significant value for its shareholders, as well as developing strong long-term relationships with the partners. With 30 years of retailing experience in the Middle East and UK, Keith has extensive knowledge of diverse markets and the ability to nurture and develop brands in a competitive environment. Keith has a BSc from Leeds University in food science. Shawqi Ghanem. Shawqi has been on our panel last year as well. He was, I think all of us know Shawqi for his past and his experience in the region overall. We really appreciate you coming here. Shawqi holds an electrical engineering degree. He's a member of the Jordanian Engineers Association since 1986. He worked as a medical engineer before joining his family business as general manager for the Gulf Retail and Wholesale divisions in 1990. And in 1997, he established Grand Optics, which of course we all know about. In 2012, he started a diversification program, successfully introducing Neck and Neck, a Spanish children's brand. Today, he's going to tell us about his new brand as well. So thank you, Sean, for coming. Ulrich Hess. Thank you for coming all the way from Germany. We appreciate it. He's the director of Wholesale International of Tom Taylor Group based in Hamburg. He has full responsibility of the international markets and global expansion for the brand. 36 markets year to date for the different Tom Taylor brands. Before he started this year with Tom Taylor, he was in different leading roles, such as the chairman of the board for Esprit in Switzerland And in this position, he had full responsibility for all sales channels, wholesale, retail, and outlet for Esprit in Switzerland and France. Ulrich holds diverse roles developed within the FMCG industry, and he trained permanently within HR, people development, sales, and marketing, and change management. We really welcome you to the company as well. So is there anyone that I've missed on the panel so far? I think we're all here on the count of 4. Mohammad, I'll leave it to you now to take over, and thank you very much. And thank you, gentlemen, for joining us.
I would like to start by picking up from the last speaker and start with the Virgin Spirit. Good morning, sexy. So this is to cheer you up a little bit, which it sounds to be a very nice idea. Thank you for telling us that. The retail runway, it's become a sort of communication way between us and the retailer. And as Michael was saying in his speech, Michael Kirschner, that we need to work hard together with the retailer. And I think the best way to work with the retailer, to understand retailer and understand their formula of working, doing business, and also to know about their expansions and more about their brandings coming to the market. So we are very honored today to have this group, this distinguished retailer here. And the formula, what I'd like to do today is we give everybody a 10-minute chance to give us a quick presentation about his company or his new brand or his new expansion plan in the region. And after that, I will start by pointing some question here, and I would love to open the floor to also to start the question round. So we'll start with Mr. Cem Eric. Cem is from Turkey, and he's, as being the introduction, he's the general manager of the Canyon companies. And also he's a member board of the Shopping Center Council of Turkish.